Okay, so today we're going to do a short video about recolouring leather. Recolouring leather can be very effective. It's not the same as retrimming, of course it's not. It is good. So we've got a couple of seat pads here that I'm going to show you this operation on, and we'll talk you through it. Now there's nothing wrong with this leather, it was just black and it needs to go to I'm going to put it to a pale biscuit colour, a creamy beige pale biscuit. And you think black leather could never look like pale biscuit, but it can if you do it properly. First thing we've got to do, make sure the leather's in good condition. These are fine. A little bit of scuffing on the piping there, but that's covered up, you don't see that. So we're going to clean these now. First thing we do, we use an alcohol cleaner. Now I get my products from Furniture Clinic, and this is not a plug for Furniture Clinic, but their system works for me, so I use their products and I use their system. So this is alcohol cleaner, and you just want a soft cloth, and you clean the seats thoroughly with this. So you just clean the seats with this, and this takes off any grease, any dirt, and it's imperative you do this in the nooks and crannies as well. Look, and you can see the dirt coming off that. These have been cleaned ones, it's still coming off. So that's what we do first of all. Yeah, so if you don't do this stage properly, all the other stages that are to follow won't work. It'll look good for a while, but it'll come off, the stuff will come off. If you do it this way, usually it doesn't. I've never had any problems with it coming off, but you've got to do it properly. Now the reason we're recolouring this car is so that the man can see if he likes the colour. And I suspect that if he likes the colour, one day you'll probably have it retrimmed in that colour. But the leather's good on this car, so there's nothing to stop you recolouring it for now. It'll last you a few years. So that's the leather cleaner. Now the next stage after that is a leather prep. It's called leather prep. Leather prep. Now this I use with a Scotch pad, and what we're going to try and do is remove the top layer of colour on this black leather. These have been done, so there's still a bit on there. I've left a little bit on there. I'll show you how we do that. It might pay you to wear some decent gloves for this. I'm only doing a little bit, so I'm not going to do it, but you need something like some washing up gloves or something. And this is scrubbed into the leather like that. And you can see it loosening up the colour. It's actually taking the colour out of the leather. Now you need to do this, it's important, because the new colour you're putting on needs to bond to the raw leather. It won't bond to another colour. So this is an important process. So alcohol cleaner again, and there. Removes all traces of that leather prep. And that's pretty much ready to go. Any repairs you need to do, you do them at this stage, but these are okay. Okay, now for the next stage of this, I use a spray gun. This is a spray gun which is set up for water-based products. This has all stainless steel internals. You can use a small spray gun if you do this at home. You need a small compressor, small spray gun. You can do it at home. You can also wipe it on with a sponge. I'm not keen on that, I prefer to spray it. So spray gun. Now for this stage we use an adhesion promoter and we add to that a cross linker. Okay? The adhesion promoter, because this has been black leather, this product is going to sit on top of that. If it was a paler leather to start with, I'd put the colour straight on top of here with a cross linker. The cross linker helps everything to bond together, it's important. It's like a catalyst. So, because this has been a black leather, we're going to spray an adhesion promoter. That will soak into this leather. Then, before that's dried, we'll apply the colour, again with a cross linker which helps it to bond, and that will then bond to the adhesion promoter which is already soaked into the leather. And that way we only need 2 or 3 coats of colour to recolour these. If it was soaking into the dark coloured hide, it might come out patchy, it might be okay, but you'll need a lot of colour. We don't want that. Less is more, less is better. Okay, so we'll just let that air dry for a bit, and we'll put another layer on, another coat, and that will then be sticky enough for us to put the colour on top. Okay, the next stage, while this is still sticky, we're going to put the colour on. Now I've had this mixed. I sent a colour sample off from my own car, my BMW, because it's exactly the right colour that we wanted. So Furniture Clinic have matched this leather dye to a tiny sample that I cut off from underneath the seat. You can't see it. Tiny square of leather I sent off, and they've matched that. This is that colour. So we're going to mix this now with a tiny bit of cross linker, which strengthens the product and helps it to bond to this adhesion promoter. So it's a pretty permanent thing then. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so that's the first coat of colourant on the leather. And you can see that it's covered it pretty well. One coat's covered it quite well. More to go on yet. You've got to build this up in thin coats. And what I'm going to do now, we put cross linker in this, we can activate that with some heat. Now, if you aren't used to it, use a hairdryer. It's gentle heat. This is a hot air gun on the lowest setting. You've got to be careful with these. These are quite brutal. But you can do it. If you're used to it, just be very careful. If you aren't used to it, don't use a hot air gun. It's too hot. You'll bubble the coating. But I've done this loads of times. I'm used to it. But use a hairdryer. It's quite safe. And all we're doing now, we're just warming up that coat that's on there, that coat of colourant, and because it's getting warm, or only a little bit warm, it's just warm air, that's activating the cross linker, and that's now bonding to the adhesion promoter. Okay, so that's the first coat on. It's got a nice matte finish to it. I'm going to put another coat of colourant on, and we'll dry that off in exactly the same way. Okay, so we've dried that off with you should use a hairdryer. I've used a hot air gun on its lowest setting. And we've carefully dried that off. Now I can tell you from experience that isn't dry enough to put the lacquer finish on top. We need to leave this for at least an hour. But you can see that even now the finish is very nice, and that's pretty much the finish you get on, say, a brand new BMW. This is a BMW colour, so that's the finish you get on a new car, on a new BMW with leather, and any other car with proper leather. I don't mean the leather-faced fabric, the leather-faced vinyl that they use these days in everything. Even Mercedes use it. You can get cars with, you can pay extra and get proper leather, and that's the finish you get. It's a matte finish. It's not unattractive, it's fine, but I like a bit of a shine on the older cars. It looks like well looked after original leather. If you do it the way I'm going to show you, that's what it looks like. So we're going to take these away and let them harden off, and we'll continue on a piece that I did yesterday. Okay, well, this is a piece that I did yesterday. This has had its lacquer, it's satin lacquer finish put on, 2 coats of that, and what that does, it seals the colour into the leather. We put some cross linker in it as well, so we know it's bonded, and this is as tough as the original leather finish. You can, it looks and behaves exactly like the original leather, except now it's this pale biscuit colour. What I do, I use a leather polish, and this does 2 things. This puts that nice shine onto the leather. It also feeds leather, because this process we've used still lets the leather breathe. It lets it behave like it originally did. We've just changed the colour. So this will soak into the leather, and it will give it a really nice sheen, and it'll look like it's original leather that's been really well looked after. So that's what we're going to do now. And with an older car, that's kind of what you're aiming for. That sheen will improve with use, and the more you use the leather cream on it. But that's kind of what we're after with an older car. Okay, final buff for this piece. So we'll get rid of this. By now the colourant will have dried on the seat pads that we did earlier. So we'll bring those back in and we'll put the lacquer finish on there. We'll do that now. Okay, so we're going to do a few repairs on these panels. There's a little bit of damage. So I'm going to show you how we do that. Okay, you can see here, this leather is dried out and it's actually torn, it's split. It's done that because the leather's not being looked after, it's not being kept supple and fed. So we're going to repair that. You'll see it a little bit, but it is tucked away, this part is tucked away. So I'll show you how we do that. We've got some high quality super glue. This is good stuff, okay? And we've got a piece of rod. This is a piece of welding rod actually. Put a drop of super glue on there, tiny drop like that. And bit by bit, we're going to glue this back down, bit by bit, really steady away. We'll move on to this part. Same thing, look, same problem. Doesn't matter about getting glue on the outside of the leather. We're going to colour it, it doesn't matter. We just need to make sure that that's in the right place. Okay, so we've super glued that back together. It's not pretty, doesn't have to be, but it's all glued back together. So we've got a 180 disc here, sanding disc, and we're just going to rub the top off that super glue there. Doesn't matter what it looks like at this stage. Do that one as well. Right, I'm just going to show you how we do these front seats a little bit different to the rest of the leather. Now the front seats have more wear on them. The leather isn't worn away, but the cracking is deeper. Now it isn't bad by any means, but just to give those cracks some strength, we're going to use a product called leather binder. This leather binder just strengthens those cracks. And all we do with the cloth is rub it into the leather on the panels where there's a bit of cracking. Only thin coats like that. And that soaks into the cracks and puts the strength back into them. You can see here where we've done a tiny repair on there, very small repair, where one of the cracks had actually started to go through. You can see the extent of the cracking on these seats, and that just needs a bit of attention with this, so that we know that these cracks aren't going to give us any trouble in the future. Yeah, here's the other seat that I did earlier. Another thin coat on there. Make sure that you rub it into the cracks. It's very easy to do. This leather refurbishment is pretty simple really. You just have to know the order in which to do things and which products to use. It's actually very good. Okay, well that's these seats finished. These were the worst of the trim panels because the front seats are used the most. This is the driver's seat squad, and this is the one that had particularly deeply creased bolster there. And as I hope you can see, all those nasty deep creases have miraculously disappeared. That was the bad part of the bolster there, with all the deep creases in. Same this side, That was the bad one. Centre section there. Okay, well, just to end this video, we're just going to have a look at the Jensen. We've started putting it back together, as you can see, and some of the interior is in. I mean, the front seats are just in there for now, but you can see that the refurbished leather is in, all the back seats in, just so you can get an idea of how it does look when it's back in place. This leather refurbishment is certainly a process that's worth looking at, because I think that looks fantastic. That's the original black leather being treated, being refurbished and recoloured, and that'll last a good few years. Well, that's it for this time. Join us again soon for more tips and tricks.